Alright, this is going to be a quick video on how to name acids and bases. This should be new for grade 11, so just pay extra careful attention here and we'll make sure we get these right. Naming acids and bases is for the purposes of where we're at right now. We're going to discuss these in a lot more detail later, but we're going to consider acids things that have hydrogen as the cation or hydrogen at the beginning, like an ionic compound HF, something like that, where the hydrogen's up front, and then we have some sort of anion in the back. And then bases we're going to just consider to be ionic compounds containing the polyatomic hydroxide OH-. Again, this is an oversimplification. We're going to deal with proper definition for acids and bases later, but in general, we can remember our most basic definitions, which is that acids are things that raise the hydrogen concentration in a solution or in water. So we can see acids are things that have hydrogens that they can give up to the water. And bases are things that raise the hydroxide concentration in water. And so bases are things that have that hydroxide and can give that to the water. It's not really critical for naming them to get the definition right, so we're just going to move forward with this definition. So within that, acids, something that has hydrogen as the positive part of the molecule. We have two main types of acids then. We have binary acids. These are going to be acids that contain hydrogen and a element as the negative ion. So we got HCl, HF, HBr, the main ones that we're thinking of here. When we name these, we're going to change the beginning, or we're going to add hydro to the beginning of the name of the nonmetal, and then we're going to change the ending to ic acid. So here, for example, with the molecule that includes hydrogen and chlorine, chlorine being the nonmetal, we would call this hydro chlor, instead of ene, chloric acid. So we add the hydro to the front, we changing the ending to ic, and then acid. Here HF, a binary acid because it has one H and one anion, one element, fluorine. So we would call this one hydrofluoric acid. And finally, HBr, hydro. Here would be bromine, so we change that to bromic acid. So, start with hydro, change to ic acid at the end. And that's it. The second type of acid that we can consider are oxyacids. And these are hydrogen bonded to polyatomics. These polyatomics are, typically containing a fair amount of oxygen, so we call these things oxyacids. The trick here is that we're going to start with the name of the polyatomic. So in the first case, we would have SO4 2-, so that's sulfate. But if it's an 8, we're going to change it to ic acid. And if it's an ite, we're going to change it to us acid. See, 8s go to ics, and ites go to us's. Now the trick I use to remember this one is that the I doesn't go to the I. See, this I goes to an O, and this A goes to this I, so we know the I doesn't go to the I, and then we can keep these ones straight. So this polyatomic here, H2SO4, is sulfate. And if I change that, 8 changed to ic, so we would call this sulfuric acid. Here, this one would be ClO4. Careful here, I almost said it's chlorate. That's actually perchlorate. So this one would turn into perchloric acid. Finally, H2SO3. SO3 here is sulfite. so this one would turn into sulfurous acid. So here we had the us because this was the ite. So that's how you name binary acids and oxyacids. Binary acids just with an element, oxyacids with the polyatomic. Naming bases is actually pretty straightforward. We just name it as the ionic compound, but we make sure that we have the polyatomic hydroxide, so we use that name for the hydroxide part. So here we have LiOH, so this is just lithium hydroxide. No special trick because it's a base or anything like that, it just has the normal name. This one is copper. Careful, copper's multivalent. If you look them up in the periodic table, it's copper +1 or copper +2, so we gotta be careful. Copper hydroxide. And if we imagine our reversing our crossover, this copper's original charge would have been 2. So copper 2 hydroxide. So that's how you name acids, that's how you name bases, and a really basic definition of acids and bases themselves.